we need doctors in this country as much as other societies need doctors. I don't think they are living because they hate the country. They don't like Nigeria. It's a survival thing for most of them. Take a critical, because health is wealth, like that old saying goes. If people are healthy, it counts for a lot. If it's objective. I once heard a lady, who works in the care sector in the UK, who said she'd rather be a carer in the UK than be a bank manager in Nigeria. Nobody's going to fix your country. You have to fix it yourselves.
Hello there. We are having a shortage of doctors and skilled workers in our hospitals once again. And because most of them are said to have left the shores of Nigeria for greener pastures in different countries in the West. So the Japa thing is real and is becoming a huge challenge in different states of the nation. So we want to find out, because there are people arguing that Japa or the diaspora is actually going to be the next wave of supply of what will change Nigeria for the better. And we don't know whether that's really true. So I have with me in the studio a public affairs commentator who will have this conversation with us, and his name is Mr. Joseph Aboku. You're most welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you for having me. Good to be at Akweya TV.
Yeah. What do you think about this whole Japa stuff? Is there a silver lining in it for Nigeria? Because we've heard the diaspora of Israel, the Jews that developed what we have today as Israel, and many other countries made use of their diaspora. From the trends you're seeing in Nigeria, is there any silver lining for us?
Well, like every other thing, it's got two sides to it. So there's a positive side of Japa, and the sides that raise concerns. Yeah. So yeah, on the one hand, for those who look to travel abroad, there are certain opportunities they don't get out of Nigeria or their country, be it any African country, that they get there. I mean, you're talking about more economically advanced nations, more technologically driven nations, better structures, better systems that drive those societies. So for those who make that move, yes, there's something in it for them, be it economic advancement, be it career advancement, and all.
That's for them.
That's for them now. On how it benefits the home countries that they live, that's a whole different talking point. But I mean, that too has some positive sides. We hear about the famous diaspora remittances, where people who have traveled abroad send something back home. And I mean, God knows, the worse our exchange rate, the more valuable those remittances. Yeah. I mean, they do the diaspora remittances. To some extent, there's a transfer of skills for those who build their skills, maybe in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics field, and because it's an area where Nigeria is greatly lacking. You and I know, if we see a road construction site in many parts of Nigeria today, there are chances you'll see more foreigners as engineers there than our local engineers, even though we have faculties of engineering scattered across our universities. So for those who go build their skills, because the societies people typically Japa to are more technologically advanced, they bring some renewed skills that may impact
if they come back.
But that becomes the question: how many of them do come back? At what stages of their life do they come back? Do they come back when they still have a lot of energy in them to contribute to the development of Nigeria, or do they come back as a retirement plan after they've lived their most productive years abroad? So
it's symmetry.
It's two-way street, but I wouldn't see it as a fix to our problem or a silver bullet. We should be able to develop within our own infrastructure, within our own human resources, and evolve systems that would build our country.
And much of it is economic, right? Many, like our doctors, Saudi Arabia recently, some years ago, I mean, after the COVID, just around the COVID era, we saw the UK poach some of our doctors and nurses, our medical personnel. We saw Saudi Arabia also come in, and much of it related to not being paid properly. How are we able, do you see an opportunity for us to be able to pay our diaspora, our professionals very well, to keep them, to retain them?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a very interesting point. And we already articulated or stressed that economic opportunities are some of the reasons people Japa. We need doctors in this country as much as other societies need doctors. And the government of Nigeria, or the authorities responsible for looking into that sector, shouldn't just take it for granted that because people are Nigerians or are trained in Nigeria, sometimes the government claims that they would owe it as a duty to stay back and practice in Nigeria. They will stay back to the extent that they are getting a wage they feel befits the work they put in. The other countries also have a huge need. I was in the UK, was it 2 years ago, and I did a blood test. Now, typically here in Nigeria, if I do a blood test, I'll get a result the next day.
Yeah.
I waited 2 weeks and I didn't get a result of that because there was a jam in the system caused by COVID.
In
the United Kingdom, yes.
Wow.
I did a test in Oxford and all. So that goes to show how their own health systems are stretched, and they are willing to put down every resource they can muster to attract the best brains from other countries. So our health facilities in Nigeria are stretched as well. Our doctors, we don't. I think the doctor-to-patient ratio in Nigeria, it's horrible when you hear about it.
Yeah.
So government needs to sit up and make sure. I get it. The government may not be able to give doctors everything they ask for, but at least make sure you're meeting a certain benchmark.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a matter of choice for a doctor whether he wants to practice in Nigeria or in some other country, and not a survival tactic for them, because many of them seem to be living because the wages they earn can't see them through. We've had complaints from Nigerian doctors, even in the UK, who say, look, we are working long hours, we are overstretched.
Yeah.
I know. People say, well, you signed up
for
it. But the issue is they are better paid there.
Yeah.
So if they are better paid here, I want to believe they'll prefer to work in this country because there's more flexibility for them out here. Many doctors have their own private practice in addition to working in government or working in either government or other private establishments. They have that level of flexibility. You might not be able to do that so easily out there if you just, Japa, migrating to a new country. So the incentive, I don't think they are living because they hate the country, they don't like Nigeria. It's a survival thing for most of them. And that's something the authorities should look into, strengthen the sector, make the necessary investment into it, improve pay, improve the quality of infrastructure, because that's some of that thing doctors complain about.
Yeah.
You've seen pictures of surgeries being carried out where a mobile phone, a flashlight. Nobody wants to work in that environment now. Give it to these countries they go to, they have the best health infrastructure where work is a lot.
And even in security.
Exactly.
Those in the rural areas are frequently kidnapped.
Absolutely. I used to work for the Red Cross at some point, and we had a program at the Red Cross, then International Committee of the Red Cross, called Healthcare in Danger, where hospitals are being attacked either by bandits or terror groups and all. So that too is a factor. So I think the Nigerian authorities need to take a step back, take a critical, because health is wealth, like that old saying goes. If people are healthy, it counts for a lot. If you have a fever now, even if somebody comes and tells you there's $1 billion deal out there, you wouldn't be thinking about that. You'll want to get back. So health is very critical to our day-to-day living, and there's a lot of work that needs to go into that sector to give Nigerians a value from there.
If there is a proposal, there has been a proposal that because Nigeria spends a lot of money to train these health workers, doctors, pharmacists, nurses, and all of that, anyone that is leaving has to pay some form of taxes back, whatever they are earning in those countries, as a way of one, paying back, and then also investing in the institutions that produce them, because our education here is highly subsidized for what they get. Because if they were not of good quality, they wouldn't have been sought for by the UK and Saudi Arabia and all those. What do you think? What do you say about this?
Yeah, I've heard that argument too. I think there was even the government proposal.
Yeah.
It came during the Buhari administration when was it Chris Ngige, or was Minister of Labour, and then I forgot who the Minister of Health was. That doctors, Nigeria spends a lot to train doctors. I don't know about the dynamics of that. I don't know if there's I've not seen a document that says this is the actual fees medical doctors had to pay if there wasn't medical students had to pay if there wasn't the subsidy, and this is what they are paying now. Because I mean, they didn't ask for subsidies. you get admitted and you are told this is the fees you have to pay as a medical student or student of pharmacy. You pay. Granted, it may be that maybe there's some social whatever component to it. But I get what the government wants to do. However, you can't use a whip, or that's not something you try to force through. The best way to keep our doctors is to make the working conditions favorable to them. If you start going the route of, you must serve a certain number of years in Nigeria before you think of, then it may raise the question for other professions as well. Okay, what about people who studied accounting? Were they subsidized too? What about lawyers? Were they subsidized too? Were they free to go abroad and see greener pasture? Why?
It's about priorities. Like we know we need these health workers, right? And we know that in other climes, the countries where they are going to, it takes maybe as much as £40,000 or so, or even sometimes 100,000 to train a doctor. And here you're paying maybe annually 500,000 in a federal university. So by 6 years or 7 years, you haven't done more than 3, 4, 5 million. You know, that kind of a thing. So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Those societies, again, before, it's a concept of relativity. I get it in the US, for instance. There are people that go to school on student loans, and many years after graduation, they're still paying those loans. Not quite the case here. People are able to pay out of pocket for their fees and are free. For me, the point still stays that, except there's a direct federal government or government sponsorship of medical students. Okay. The government of Niger State, the government of Rivers State, the federal government, they're paying your fees fully. You're fully on scholarship, but the condition for that scholarship is that when you graduate, you're going to practice in our state, in our country, for the next 5 years. Now, if someone signs off on that and then eventually decides to relocate abroad, then yes, questions can be asked of that person. But to generically say, well, the fees in Nigeria are not expensive compared to, you have to look at the, first of all, you may compare 5 million naira to what people pay abroad, but how easy it is for someone to raise that money. Some of these students are children of farmers, of laborers, of civil servants who don't earn very well. So the focus should be on looking for, you can give doctors certain incentives. It's not just about the pay they receive. They can have certain tax incentives for them. You can do like social housing things. Certain incentives you put, they'll make it, because let's be honest, don't think those who go abroad to practice medicine have a field day. They are not in a hammock. They work their backs out. That's why some had to complain. They deal with other issues. Some may not like the weather. Some may be
Yeah.
dealing with even racism
Racism.
issues. The food might be a problem.
Mhm.
They are lonely. I mean, they don't. And that's a very big.
Nigerians are food racists. We never like any other person's food.
Exactly. I mean, some of the society you don't have people you know around, so
Yeah.
that loneliness creeps. So I want to think on many of them would rather practice their profession here, but it's conditions. So we need to start looking into what conditions are we going to do. They've given, I think, the NMA, Nigerian Medical Association, as well as National Association of Resident Doctors. They're also giving conditions, the health infrastructure. It's not all about money, money, money. Yes, money is part of their demands, but put the hospitals in good shape. Fix the hospitals, pay them well, and you find that more of them will prefer to practice in Nigeria than going abroad.
Yeah. Do you think that the government as a whole should do more? Like we have the Nigerian Diaspora Commission. We have those other structures in place. Are they doing enough to stem the tide or to do the repatriation of knowledge that you were talking about at the earlier point, in terms of, okay, so if we have Nigerian doctors doing very well, is it possible for them to come back periodically and train some doctors back home or nurses back home? You know, is there, do you see any of such in place?
Well, I've not seen that as a very strong form. What I know for a fact is oftentimes when Nigerians relocate abroad, they set up channels, they tell you the goodness of working abroad, of life abroad, and why other Nigerians should come abroad. That may not apply to all. I'm sure there are doctors who from time to time come back, maybe to do like a medical outreach or do something in the way of giving back. Some have sort of set up hospitals or two here and there, but I don't see a trend of, the data doesn't suggest that you have a sizable number of people coming back to like bring, to come back and invest here in terms of in the health sector or bring their knowledge. What I see is them laying out what makes where they're working attractive and why other people should come. So if you go to YouTube, for instance, you see many Nigerians doing videos of benefits of Japa. I once heard a lady, who works in the care sector in the UK, who said she'd rather be a carer in the UK than be a bank manager in Nigeria, because oftentimes there's this whole conversion of, I'm earning this amount in pounds, in dollars, this is what it translates to in Nigeria. So, and
they don't say the taxes, the 40%.
Again, it doesn't work that way. If you're in a society where you're spending their local currency, you're hurting yourselves by converting to because I could pay £3 for a bottle of water somewhere in London. £3 is about 6,000 naira. No way am I buying 6,000 naira. I'm buying 6,000 naira bottle of water. It's like 200, 300, 500 at the most. But anyway, that's a slight digression. To your question more specifically, as of now, we've not seen any evidence or data that shows that people who migrated abroad 80s, 90s, 2000s coming back to establish stuff. There may be pockets or isolated cases of coming back, doing investments, but not on a large scale.
Okay. All right. We'll go on a short break and then we'll be right back. For those of you who are watching on YouTube and any of the platforms, thank you so much for being with us. You can share this video. When we come back from this break, we'll take the discussion a bit home to Benue, because like you know, Akweya TV also, we come from Benue, even though we are based in Abuja. What's happening about the Japa? Is it going to be something that Governor Hyacinth Alia and the administration can take advantage of? We'll be right back.
When if you're faced with security, you need people who understand your space, your terrain,
and are vested in it.
And exactly, I feel Benue is seen to be taking very robust steps, engaging with the federal government and putting local structures in place to contain security, those in the diaspora also feel more confident to get a lot more involved than they currently are.
In a world filled with impactful stories and transformative experiences, the essence of change is vital. That's where we come in. With over 16 years of experience shooting documentaries, we specialize in productions for local and international non-governmental organizations. Our focus is on showcasing the results and impacts of non-profit intervention on individuals, institutions, and society. We capture the success stories that emerge from these interventions, allowing project management experts to focus on designing projects with the greatest value to the beneficiaries. Our skilled team of filmmakers, storytellers, and technicians serve as a powerful tool, raising awareness, fostering empathy, and mobilizing support for the cause that truly matters. If you are a non-governmental organization looking to amplify your impact through compelling storytelling, let us bring your success story to life, ensuring that the world hear the voices that deserves to be heard.
Connect with us by sending an email to info@isumedia.net.ng for more interesting updates. Follow us on our social media platforms @ISUMedia. ISU Media, ocean of ideas.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for sharing the video. For those of you on YouTube and on other platforms, thank you for inviting your friends to watch the conversation. So I've been in this conversation with Mr. Abuku, and I said we are both from Benue.
Yes, we are.
And we have a very reverend father in the saddle. And we also know that Benue has quite some sizable diaspora population. Then within the country itself, Benue has a lot of professionals scattered around different parts of the country. Have you seen any structured system in the last 2 years of the earlier administration where they can take advantage, or they are taking advantage of the diaspora, generally, or Benue indigenes scattered in different parts of Nigeria?
What I'll say is, I think the current governor, has had quite a scaled up engagement with the Benue diaspora. I mean, it's not limited to him. The previous governors as well did that. Former Governor Susom as well was quite good with engaging with the diaspora. I was in the United Kingdom sometime in September last year, where there was a Thief Day celebration, and the governor...
That Thief Day that only happens abroad, but no longer happens in...
Yeah, I mean, quite interesting. That's the case. I hope that gets to change. But yeah, the governor was there, engaged with but the Benue diaspora. I mean, the Thief Day, but I know he engaged with the Benue and the Thief, as well as the Idoma community. He met different Benue communities. He was also in the United States at some point, and also had an engagement with them, did an interview where he was questioned by the diaspora. People came up with certain suggestions for him. Now, that's encouraging. It's encouraging for every governor to engage with their people home and abroad, because leveraged well, you can utilize the diaspora. You take the union, the Mutual Union of Thieves in America, also known as MUTA, for instance. They used to have a medical outreach in Benue. They also have scholarships in the STEM, science, tech, engineering, and mathematics field. So it might be a small contribution, but it points to what the diaspora can do. So properly engaged. If you don't make them feel left out, you can harness their brains. I mean, you're right. Benue has a sizable diaspora, and that didn't happen by accident. So sometime in the Second Republic, the governor at the time, Governor Aku, had a deliberate policy of sending some Benue people abroad, United States, UK.
I think Professor Vendegat Jibo was Commissioner for Education also.
A number of them. So, and it was a strategic investment in human capital. It wasn't just, hey, go abroad and have fun. I mean, the Naira was strong then. There was really no incentive for people to want to run abroad. Nigeria was, to be honest, better organized than it is today. So many of those people, the plan was for them to go, come back at some point, impart their newfound skills. Some did return, some didn't. No thanks to some of the issues we had with military administration. I mean, the truncation of democracy and what Nigeria turned. So you have a sizable number of them still there. There's a Benue man who is a vice chancellor in the United States University, Professor Tahuli. So exactly. So these are people that, if the government of Benue State properly engages, they should be able to bring in good ideas that will benefit our state as a whole, Benue State as a whole.
Yeah. And well, talking university, I mean, there's been this debate about the renaming of the Benue State University, even though it's not about the diaspora. What do you weigh in on that? How do you weigh in on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen those debates. So there are two sides to that debate. On the Benue State government side, they think, well, Father Dasu, who was the first Catholic priest Benue had as governor, the governor of Benue in the Third Republic. There are those who say the idea of setting up a state university in Benue was his vision.
Yeah.
And all, he's late now. I mean, he set a university. Initially, Benue had to compete for slots in other universities. Jos, Zaria, there was a whole catchment area there. And he envisioned and said, look, if we have our own state university here, where we have full control of, it gives us a better platform to educate our people and use education as a way to develop the state and get people out of poverty, build the state. So that was credit to him. The license was issued during the Babangida administration to Reverend Father Dasu. The story then was that, look, he sat outside Babangida's office until very late at night, and IBB came out and, you're still waiting here. He was waiting on the license, and that was signed and given to him. I mean, I don't know how accurate that was. But so the Benue State government feels it is Father Dasu is worthy of honor. Since he's late now, he set up that school, the school should go by his name. And then the state government says, look, we are trying to set up a whole new university that can take the Benue State University name. On the other side of the debate, I do that, look, the BSU, as we call it, or Benue State, has become a brand already. I know it's got a strong alumni locally, internationally. It's people have put in research works, research papers there in BSU. So when you bring a whole new name, then it's like you hit the reset button there to start to build that brand visibility. Again, I mean, there's merit on both sides of the debate. If you ask me personally, I'd rather go with the old name, but that's not the discounted answer.
And then there's the diehard group like me who say, why do you have title Reverend Father Moses Osho Adasu University?
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Why not Moses Adasu University?
It's a mouthful, but I think they say the proper acronym is Moses Osho Adasu University. Makodi. I mean, still tricky to pronounce. I'm sure we'll get accustomed to it, but it's what it is. These things happen. Sometimes I remember how upset I was when we have a football club from Benue State, Lobby Stars, that sadly just went on relegation. I remember how upset I was when their logo was changed. I still feel the old logo was better than the current logo, but these things do happen, and we just, once they happen, we need to shrug it off and move on. People might not like the name. I personally prefer the good old BSU, Benue State University name, but we can't be seen to be upset that Adasu's name has been used. So it's what this is.
Staying on Benue, if you were to want to attract a diaspora, the insecurity has become, has gone out of hand, and the general opinion seems to be that the governor isn't doing well enough to stem the tide of insecurity. How would somebody from the diaspora, the Benue diaspora, come back home if they were nursing that ambition?
Yeah, in fairness to the Benue diaspora, one thing I can see of the Benue diaspora is they stay in touch. They tend to have a good sense of what happens back home in Benue. They're not just lounging in the US watching baseball and eating burgers, or watching the Premier League in the UK.
Yeah.
They know
Yeah.
what's happening back home. I used to belong to a diaspora group, a group of TIFF people worldwide called TIFFnet, and it had a strong diaspora presence where issues of development in Benue, issues of security, the economy were being discussed, and they had very healthy participation. So, for me, the question should be, how can the state government partner with the diaspora to find lasting solutions? I know, for instance, in the United Kingdom, there was a protest march to 10 Downing Street, where later was presented to the British Prime Minister's office about the scale of killings that were going on in Benue. I know during the Obasanjo administration, when there was some crisis in Benue, where military men invaded Zakibiam and some communities and parts of Benue, the Benue diaspora in America wrote a very strong worded letter, and that was shared both to the US government and to the government of Nigeria. And if I recall correctly, I think there was some action by the US government. Some people feel it's part of what led to some arms embargo or whatever embargo on Nigeria. So the diaspora is very much connected, and I would say the government should keep engaging them. I don't think they will be put off or stay away from investing in Benue. I've seen a couple of people in the diaspora who have tried to offer solutions that, hey, with the crisis we face on our hands, we need to leverage technology, drone technology, surveillance technology. Some people in the diaspora are already making those suggestions. It's up to the government to look at the merit of some of those suggestions and see if they are worth it. But yeah, I think the Benue diaspora is quite investment. They're not emotionally detached from activities in the state. Some have made investments here and there. They also send remittances. So we've got a very highly resourced diaspora in terms of knowledge out there, and it's in the best interest of the authorities in Benue today, tomorrow, to keep engaging them, because only then will you get the best out of their sojourn abroad.
Yeah. Well, there's also this this challenge where there's a negative perception of Nigeria and maybe Benue as a whole. When we were talking before we came on the show, you seem to think that maybe we have lost, but most of those leaving are not likely to come back. Is that really how you feel? Do you think the sentiments are like they want to come back? Do they really want to come back?
Yeah, I mean, I want to believe many people abroad would like to come back, but what prevents them coming back are the conditions they have to deal with. They get here. They are used to a system where you have the lights on 24/7, the taps flow. They come back here, you have to provide your everything. Some might worry about the security, and not security because, you are from the diaspora, but cases of robberies, petty crime that may not get fixed or resolved by the police. Dispute resolution, if I have a challenge and I go to court. So the broader breakdown, I mean, the breakdown of the Nigerian system as a whole is some of what is holding people back from returning and contributing. They'd rather limit their contributions to either advisories or remittances and all. But many really want to come. There are a couple I know that come home from time to time, but stay for a short while and go back. Some have built houses here, back home in Nigeria, in Benue, as the case might be. Now, it's the same solutions I profiled for the federal government. So Benue as well, if you want to attract your diaspora, they need to see some things.
Tangible.
Tangible things on the ground. They need to see that, okay, yeah, the government is really serious about recalibrating certain sectors. You see that the government is taking the issue of insecurity seriously, which brings me, I feel, for instance, that the Benue State government as well should lend its voice strongly to the state police clamor, because the system we run in Nigeria, where someone from Ebonyi State can be posted to be police commissioner in Kano State, might not work quite well. He has cultural issues to deal with. He has language barriers. He doesn't know the space. When you're, if you're faced with security, you need people who understand your space, your terrain,
and are vested in it.
And exactly that way is better. So, but I mean, the state police conversation is a totally different. We can explore that some other day. But I feel Benue is seen to be taking very robust steps, engaging with the federal government and putting local structures in place to contain security. Those in the diaspora also feel more confident to get a lot more involved than they currently are.
It was Frantz Fanon, the Algerian writer, that said, every generation out of relative obscurity must find its mission and fulfill it or betray it. Those Nigerians that are jackpying, do you think they are betraying? Do you think they have not even found their mission, what they need to do for Nigeria? Or do you think they found it and they are betraying it? Like they are putting all these preconditions for coming back home instead of coming back home or staying behind and fixing it? Are they betrayers of Nigeria?
I wouldn't call them betrayers, but what I would tell such people is nobody's going to fix your country. You have to fix it yourselves. I mean, fixing it yourself might not entail staying back all of your life, but you need to be more invested. The truth is that as rosy as people make migration or relocation abroad sound, it's not the perfect picture they paint. And I mean, there are people who basically just exist in those countries. Yeah, they might take pictures. You see shiny, glassy skyscrapers in the background. They're wearing good clothes and all.
Many of them say, if I tell them the truth, they won't believe. So
yeah,
I need to show them.
The trains come on time and all, but I mean, at some point in your life, you have to ask, what's the essence of life for you? Is it about trains on time? Is it about just, I mean, life should have a bigger essence than that. So again, bringing in the concept of relativity, is it like our people prefer to be poor in a foreign country, or would they rather be considered as a poor country, or would they rather be comfortable in a poor
Nigerians
country?
are selling corn, roasted corn on the streets in France. You know, they are roasting corn.
Yeah. So not to be judgmental towards them, but it's I also kick against the very doom and gloom picture they paint of the country. I tell people, look, we are a nation of 220 million. 10% of that is 22 million. How many countries in the world can soak up 22 million Nigerians? So at the end of the day, we all have to stay back and fix our country. But then again, those in charge of running the affairs of the country have to lead from the front. It's not enough to tell people, oh, be patriotic, stay back, while one man plunders the economy and builds 750 duplexes for himself. People buy private jets from the public offers. That wouldn't motivate anybody to stay back, because it reduces life to survival. Yeah. And many of those running abroad, it's about survival.
Yeah, but for many too, they are selling duplexes here, selling up. I mean, they are well-to-do bank managers, you know.
Yeah, those are the ones I say, hey, look before you leave. Yeah. And it's not all look before you scale, because many people have gone that way and ended up heartbroken in those
broken homes and broken
societies. I've had someone, an Uber driver, who took me to the airport in London, and he was a bank manager here as well. Yeah. I mean, he was filled with regrets, but said, well, I mean, he's here already. He can just come back, because where's he starting from? So I tell people, know before you go. Yeah. I worked at some point I used to work for the British High Commission, and we had a campaign to warn against illegal migration. Like, know before you go. Like, don't just think once you get into a country, you hear beautiful stories, you see videos. I bought my first house 3 3 years after I arrived in the UK. Meanwhile, that house has a 30-year payment plan. Means you're tied. Because I go to the stores in these countries, you see people our grandmothers' ages in stores selling. These are locals of those countries, white people still struggling to eke out a living. So to think that because you've made the crossover, life automatically becomes beautiful for you. No, it's many people have gone into those countries and had to deal with a heartbreak. They are disillusioned. Sometimes their marriages, for those who are married, have crashed because of the pressures. You know, we have a strong support system out here. If I have a wife here, I have kids, chances are I would have 1 or 2 people helping with the kids and all. There to pay for childcare, it might take over 90% of what you earn. So you have parents having to run shifts at the point the wife is home. The husband has to be at work at the point the husband is home. The wife, and your life becomes some routine that isn't what you signed up for. So it leaves many people in great distress. So if you have to go abroad, be sure of what you're getting into, because many people end up at that bottom of the pyramid of the spectrum. And all that's when you realize the whole conversion of dollars or euros or pounds to naira makes absolutely no sense. That's when the taxes hit hard, the weather hits hard, and a number of factors. So it's not, life abroad is not all rosy. Let's not fool our people.
Wow. All right, so we're really coming to the end of this. You know, it's Democracy Day. We're observing 2 years of this administration. So overall, what would you say? This is not just about Japa now, just an overall picture of where is there also a silver lining in, because we all know the economy is bad, but do you think there's something that the entire Nigerians are not seeing about this government, that something good is going to come at the federal level and at the state level?
Well, I mean, this government drives itself by a mantra called renewed hope. So I would say most Nigerians are hoping that there's a silver lining at the end. As of now, if you talk to people, the hardship is real. People say, what's the benefit of the subsidy withdrawal to me? I mean, I'm using me in a generic sense, not referring to myself. For someone who used to spend 16,000 to maybe fill their car tank, for those who own cars, they're having to spend close to 60,000 now. What's he getting back in return for pushing that much money, even though incomes haven't risen at the level that commensurate to either inflation or tariffing? Personally, I wasn't a fan of currency devaluation. Again, that was done. Was the benefit of that to you and I? What you would have spent 30,000 to get, say 3-4 years ago, you have to spend 120,000 naira now. Now, it confuses many people when the government, as recently as yesterday or 2 days ago, the information minister said, hey, we removed subsidy. Kudos to us. We harmonized the exchange rate. But if you ask ordinary Nigerians, they're asking, what is the benefit, or what has been the benefit of these policies?
And then there's a student's loan.
To them. They talk of the student loan NEL fund. I don't know how it works yet.
But they say it didn't even trickle down to the right people.
Yeah, exactly. Now, oftentimes they say, oh, there's more money going to the states. And that too, if you take a survey across many states, isn't benefiting the people. So it's still a lot of hardship, but the narrative is that it's a reform process. It's a pregnancy phase. And when the baby is delivered, will come joy. So many Nigerians are hoping. But if you take a sample, or if you take a survey of the practical day-to-day living of Nigerians, things don't seem to have gotten better for them. So the government really needs to get into gear and listen to Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians, not people who wear shiny suits and ties. Listen to ordinary, everyday Nigerians, the vulcanizers, the market woman, the person who goes to a construction site to earn a living, the primary school teacher. These are everyday
they say they laugh at the poor. Let the poor breathe. They laugh at the poor. So
it's sometimes our political people in public officials, they are sometimes quite unguarded. and insensitive in their remarks, which is something you hardly hear coming from other countries. When in certain parts of the world, if you hold certain positions, you should know the kind of things you're trained in what to say and what not to say. But it doesn't seem to be the case here. People make lots of off-the-cuff remarks that look like they're, to use the street expression, adding salt to injury, and it doesn't help with the situation Nigerians are going through. But I mean, overall, government still has a lot of work to do in delivering, in scaling up the quality of life of Nigerians. It doesn't appear like much has improved, if at all. So there's so much work to go in there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abuku.
Okay.
Really a pleasure having you in the
Thanks
studio.
for having me.
And for those of you who have been with us, that's what we're having to discuss in this second anniversary of the administration, the Tinubu administration. It promised renewed hope, and we talked about Japa, the entire migration thing, whether it has potentials of bringing in resources that will lead to our economic emancipation. And we want to know what you think. So if you're watching us on YouTube, please send us your comments. What do you think? Is there going to be reverse Japa, like Jakpada, as the former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo once said? And if it's going to happen, is that going to be one of the ways to redeem our economy? Thank you so much for watching, and look forward to seeing you again. My name is Odo Diego Kenyedo, and this conversation has been with Mr. Joe Abuku.